trail is hard. It'll test your body and your will to wake up and hike each day. Physically, it will challenge your limits, but the ultimate hurdle to overcome is yourself, your mind. Your body will adapt and become strong in the backcountry if you have the tenacity to let it. But when you're sitting in your tent or your sleeping bag at night with another 100 miles ahead of you before the next town, completely exhausted and missing your loved ones, do you hit the SOS button or do you dig deep and stay? What if you haven't seen another hiker in a week and it's only been you hiking with yourself and the Joshua trees of SoCal? What do you do? I want to give some detail on types of challenges we faced on our PCT thru hike in 2022 and the mental barriers we had to overcome to cope with those issues. To preface, my wife Marie, aka Basecamp, and I are both hikers and ultra runners. Very competitive. We've had to live in the quote-unquote pain cave, often when on training or competitive runs. It's just what happens when you've been running all day for 30 plus miles. Your body starts to hurt, your emotional walls crumble down, and you either deal with it or you don't. If you don't, you may not finish. Ultra runs are extremely similar to thru hiking. One is just quick and done after a day or two, while the other drags on for months. Both are endurance activities in their own respects. You endure things physically and mentally. From my point of view, there are 4 big mental challenges you'll face at some point on a long-distance trail. Not specifically the PCT, but any long trail. These mental hurdles deal with the physical, the environmental, the social, and the intrapersonal.
Excerpt from Yeti Legs with his blog with the trek. So thanks, Wesley. Hand clap.
Hand clap, hand clap.
That was the intro, actually.
It was the intro. It's called Uphill Battles, Mental and Emotional Challenges of a PCT Hiker.
And we'll put the link to that in the show notes. So if you'd like to read the entire blog post, then you can do that there.
Yep, the write-up comes in part 1 and part 2, so you can easily break it up.
It's pretty good. We've decided we're going to dedicate this episode to all of the 2023 thru hikers.
All the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and the youngins.
Yeah, so we just want to dedicate this episode to you. We wanted to talk about Wesley's blog.
Yeah, so really dealing with the core component of your thru hike, and that's you, and how you address and handle situations that you come across on trail.
We're going to actually talk about the 4 things that he mentioned: the physical, the environmental, the social, and the interpersonal.
Yeah.
So let's begin.
First, I want to say, freaking be careful out there. California, and I'm sure Washington has received a monumental dump of snow. So if you're starting your hike in early March, just be mindful, take the proper equipment with you. Know before you go. That is the big key slogan to avalanche awareness here in Colorado.
Yeah.
So do some research, check out the snow levels in the areas that you're going to be hiking. And even in Mount Laguna, very beginning of the PCT in SoCal, you could have several feet of snow there.
Tons of snow. And I would even encourage, if you're a hiker who has never dealt with snow in your entire life and you're about to start the PCT, I would be very mindful. And don't go out there by yourself if there's a lot of snow. You do have to take legit snow gear, snow clothing right now until it melts. It's the biggest takeaway right now.
Yeah, just be mindful that a drastic drop in temperature of only 30 degrees can cause you to go hypothermic if you don't have the proper cold weather clothing with you. So
yeah,
carry a few extra pounds, be warm, ship it out when you don't need it.
Yeah.
And with that being said, should we get into this?
Let's do it.
So these are 4 different categories, but each one boils down to your mental and emotional health when it relates to these 4 different categories. To reiterate, they were the physical, the environmental, social, and the intrapersonal.
The physical.
The physical aspects of the trail, really.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the blisters, the sore back, the shoulders with knots in them, the knee that aches, the old high school football injury that resurfaces every once in a while, the pain that you have to deal with. I think it was Scout said it, the difference between a thru hiker and a hiker. I may be misquoting you, Scout, but the interpretation is the difference between a thru hiker versus a hiker is that a thru hiker understands that there will not be a single day they're not in pain.
Yeah.
Whereas the hiker experiences pain and often just won't deal with it, or they'll just bail out, get off trail because they are in pain and they can't cope with it.
So I think that was a really big thing for me is I thought at some point on the trail, especially like 3 months in, I thought I wouldn't be sore anymore. And I was sore every day, like just muscle sore, just like if you've been working out hard and then the next day you feel sore. I thought that pain would go away at some point, and it never did, even to the end. And in Washington, it didn't mean that we couldn't do higher miles or that we weren't in shape, but your body is just so exhausted, sore, lacking vitamins and nutrients. And the feet, like your feet feel, like my feet, I don't know if everybody's feet feel that way, but my feet felt sore every day. And Sweet Wesley would massage my feet every single night because it just relieved the pain of what I was experiencing every day. It was an injury pain. It was just sore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, if you think you're experiencing any emergent pain, something that's serious that could lead to worse repercussions if you just let it go, seek medical attention.
You should, yeah, for sure. Because there are definitely people that got taken off of trail because they were so stressed out that they had to finish in 4 to 5 months because of their visa being international.
Yeah.
And I know a handful of people who were like gunning for the finish because they were so nervous about it. So they were doing 20, 25, 30 miles out the gate. And they started saying they were having pain here, pain there. And then, I mean, some of them actually got fractures and had to get off trail.
Yeah.
So definitely listening to your body is important.
It is important. I think the reason I first listed the physical attributes of mental and emotional health is because that's the first thing you're going to have to really deal with. The first couple days, I experienced blisters. We both experienced sore hips, sore legs, sore feet. I had to pull a tick off me. That wasn't comfortable. But you just experience all these different elements of pain in the first few days. And I'm not saying that you will on your hike, but for the average Joe Blow, you're probably going to experience pain.
Yeah, your body's going to have to adjust.
It's going to have to adjust. And your muscles will grow. Your body is going to become this calorie-consuming,
machine,
leg-jacked machine by the time you get through the Sierra Nevadas going Nobo. Some of the pains will never go away, regardless of how accustomed you get to thru hiking or how big and jacked your muscles get. Like Base Camp said, your feet will hurt. Your back's going to hurt on heavy food carries in the high Sierras because you're carrying 7+ days of food. And you haven't been used to that in the SoCal desert. You've been spoiled with frequent town stops.
Which is nice. I mean, we didn't end up doing it, and I wish we had, but because we went through the Sierras in May, a lot of people ended up doing a 10-day food carry, and that was like doing average 15, 20 miles in that section per day. And so they were carrying 10 days of food, and that was probably the heaviest food carry, I think, on the trail that people were saying.
Yeah.
And we decided not to do that, which, hindsight 2020, we should have done that, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We learned and grew from it. But if you're going through the Sierras in May, do that 10-day carry. Just do it. Just suck it up and do it. You will thank yourself. Don't go over Bishop Pass. Do not go over Bishop Pass in the winter in May. It's not a safe place. Just go from Kearsarge to, what was it, Mammoth?
Yeah.
And just suck it up. I wanted to transition. I want to talk about blisters. Talk about your experience with blisters.
I started the PCT with the full intent of getting blisters at the beginning and my feet getting calloused and me not developing blisters again after that very rough and tumultuous time. So people went out there with multi-layers of socks on their feet to try and prevent blisters. I chose to just go.
Just do it.
with Darn Tough socks, just one sock. I love Darn Tough socks, and I wore my Ultra Lone Peaks, and that was it. And I probably suffered from blisters for the first month. And after that time, I no longer had any blisters on the trail, even on our road walk, no blisters. In retrospect, I'm glad that I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sucked at first. I had to do a lot of triage in the tent at night.
Every single night.
Every
he had
night.
triage.
I would burn the tip of the needle. I would run the needle through the blister. Sometimes I had to keep a string in there so that the blister would drain if it was very large. And it's just something that I had to do, but I went in fully anticipating it.
Tricks of the trade, by the way.
Tricks of the trade.
Yes, if you didn't know and you get blisters on the trail and you have to keep going every single day and they keep recreating themselves, what did you do? Because I never did this.
I would always sanitize a little threading needle, and you can use hand sanitizer or you can use a little lighter to sanitize it just a few minutes or a few seconds over the lighter. Try and get it in the blue part of the flame. You just run it through the blisters and drain them, and make sure that your feet are more or less clean at the end of each day. Just use a little wet wipe and maybe a little hand sanitizer, and you're good.
Weren't you saying you should do that every day? Drain it every day. Don't let it build up or...
Oh, yeah. If you get any buildup in the blister, I would say to drain it.
Can it get infected, a blister?
If it becomes an open sore, it can. So just be careful whenever you're popping your blister not to stab your foot.
And don't open the blister up.
Yeah.
That's what I was good at.
And I never really tried moleskins. I would every once in a while use
rock tape.
And rock tape works
Yeah.
on the back of my heel. It would never stay on my feet, and that was okay. About a month in, after triaging blisters each night, I didn't have another blister the rest of the trail.
Where were your blisters too?
My blisters were on my second biggest toe a lot of the times, and then I would get it underneath that toe, and then I would get it on the bottom of the pads of my feet. But that's because I land on the fronts or the toes of my feet instead of my heel.
Which is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I picked that up from ultra running. I land on the front of my feet instead of the back. So that's why those were my hot spots.
Yeah.
What about you? What did you do to never get blisters?
So I didn't get any blisters except for one. And it was heading into Kennedy Meadows South.
Oh, and she pitched the fit when she got this one blister.
I was so mad. It's because we didn't stop and air out our feet. So one of the tricks of the trade I learned is that when your feet, when it feels like you're starting to get a hot, what are they called?
A hot spot.
Hot spot. When it feels like you're starting to get a hot spot, just stop, take a 5-minute break, and take your socks off and let your feet breathe. Because that's actually what helps your feet not get blisters, apparently. And I use some socks. They're called Right
socks.
Right socks. WRIGHT. I use those for a long time. They don't last very long, but they definitely help. There's something about the layer of the sock that helped with rubbing on my feet. Yeah, so at lunch, I took my socks off and let them dry out in the sun. I wouldn't let them be too wet. And then by like month 4, I don't think they were so calloused. Our feet were so calloused by 3 or 4 months in. It doesn't even matter anymore. Yeah. I barely took my shoes off even half the time. Big advice is just take your shoes off. And boots are going to cause you so many blisters. Like boots, if you're doing boots in the desert or boots in hot climates, you are going to probably blister pretty bad.
And if you're insistent on boots, I would say get a full grain leather, but don't get waterproof boots.
No.
Unless that's your preference, because they're going to retain sweat. It's going to cause your feet to get wet, and that's how blisters happen. So that's why we were pretty stout trail runner people on trail. Except for in the Sierras, you used waterproof ultras, and I used a pair of waterproof leather boots. And it did rub a little bit on the back of my heel. But again, by that point, 700 miles, your feet start to callous.
Honestly, my feet got wet a lot in the Sierras. However, we did change. Didn't we get rid of our shoes, or did you keep your boots? I think I got rid of my Ultras and Bishop. I got rid of mine too. So when we went over the Bishop Pass, we kind of shaved a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And we just took our trail runners from that point forward because the snow was just rapidly melting.
Yeah.
And
you just dry your socks and shoes out
at night, yeah. Or you just put wet shoes back on and then the next morning. And I had like alternate socks I used every other day. So yeah, that's blisters.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Oh, the blister.
What's another physical pain that we endured a lot?
I think for us with our heavier packs, the back pain was always a problem.
Back pain was hard.
I would always try and evenly distribute the weight through my pack, but somehow my left shoulder still got the brunt of it.
Me too, for some reason. And I don't know if that's just the packs we had. I don't know what that was. Or I still to this day cannot fix that problem.
And I think one thing that we both experienced as far as pain goes after the trail is in Washington, we had to do so many traverses across these ridges that were nothing but rock, scree, gravel, and boulders.
Ooh, yeah.
And by the time we
Sensitive.
finished, and a few days when we had just been resting, our feet felt bruised.
Bruised, yes. And we did have to just get out and move every day because the body would start locking up because it just is so used to walking.
We said earlier, our feet hurt during the trail every day, but they didn't feel bruised like that until we were done.
Till the end. That's true. They were almost like swollen and bruised.
Yeah.
I don't know if the body just decided to hold out until the end to really go through that process.
And I think another pain that should be mentioned is just the pain from cold that you experience. Your fingers, your toes, even windburn on your face. When you're going through snowy alpine conditions, that's a different level of pain that you don't think about sometimes.
When your fingers, like the tips of your fingers and toes start going numb. And then all of a sudden, like you start getting a little feeling, it's like little needles sticking.
It's like pins and needles,
sticking your fingers and your toes, and that's not fun at all. Trying to figure out how to problem solve that while you're out there. And I took 2 different pairs of gloves out there with me because I have Reynolds syndrome, so my hands, once they hit cold within 5 seconds, they're starting to turn numb. And so I have to...
That sucks.
I know. I have to like keep them protected at all times and all costs. So
she's not over exaggerating.
It's a horrible experience.
Take those damn hot hand packets. Carry a few extra ounces.
I didn't take those hot hands though.
But I bet you wish you did.
No, actually it was fine in the Sierras though. It really wasn't that bad because we were in like 30-degree conditions most nights. So it was okay. I had gloves that could sustain that. But if we got into 5 degrees, that was a really cold night.
Yeah.
In the Sierras. We did have one that was like 5 degrees.
That was painful.
That was very painful.
And we camped by a lake. Why did we do that?
I don't know. And it snowed.
Yeah.
That was fun.
But to bring it full circle on physical pain and just the fact that you're going to be in pain every day, just go into a big trail knowing that. And on the days where you're pretty comfortable and you're really not in a whole lot of pain, count those as blessings. I say this in the article as well, but you kind of just have to become friends with the pain that you experience on a daily basis. And after a while, your brain just starts to register the daily aches and pains as like the norm, as part of the experience. Once you've reached that point, you have officially coped with your physical pains that are not emergent, and I think that will put you one step further towards the success of your thru hike.
Because that's what helped me was hearing scouts say that. Like, hey, you're going to be in pain every day. And what separates someone that actually can complete and finish a thru hike and one that will give up is can you handle and can you just hold that pain with you every single day and understand you're just in pain. Like, that's a part of it. And that really helped me, I think, going into the hike to understand that.
Even for me, whenever I would experience pain, sometimes I would get it out. I'm not going to say I'm proud of it, but one of the easiest ways for me to get out pain that strikes me all of a sudden is to just yell.
Or cuss. I cussed a lot.
Or even sometimes she would catch me hitting the bushes with my trekking poles.
Oh my gosh, that was the funniest. So that was something, that's a physical pain, is when we were in the desert, we pretty much bushwhacking in some areas. Like, you're just going through the bushes. And I had yoga pants on, so I didn't feel the scrapes and scratches, but Wesley had shorts on.
Yeah, I had 3-inch shorts on in the beginning, and when we would walk through these overgrown areas, the manzanitas would just rake my legs.
Ravage you.
And it hurt. And sometimes I'd be like, just effing go away, and then I would hit the bush. Or the tree with my poles. Thank God I never broke my poles, but
that was funny.
So you just got to expect and anticipate the pain, learn how to cope with it, but also release whenever you need to.
Yeah, you definitely have to.
Who cares if you're hiking with other people and you look like a madman cursing at a tree? Just do what you have to do.
Yelling at it.
Just do what you got to do, dang it.
Oh, here's another one, though, is your toe.
I won't go into detail about it because that was my own fault. It was a stupid call. But I tried to do a water crossing in the Sierras barefoot, and I slipped on a slimy rock. And I heavily sprained my toe. It turned black and purple, and it ached for quite a while until about Washington from the Sierras. Yeah, just make good choices out there. And I think that's a good segue into the next section. You'll have to deal with environmental issues on trail. I want to read you a quick excerpt from the blog to explain what I mean by environmental. On trail, you'll walk through nature, of course, which many call the environment. But when I say environment, I mean everything surrounding you, both inanimate and living. Nature, man-made, walking, talking, etc. Inanimate things are rocks, your clothes, rain, water, buildings, cars, boulders, precipitous ledges, wind, and the list goes on. And of course, some living things you should expect out there include all flora and fauna that call the trail and surroundings home, but also the people you'll meet. All these things, living and non-living, contribute to your experience. Many of our memories from the PCT were filled with laughs, beautiful views, and curious creatures. Though that wasn't always the case, and it won't be for you. So to that, what I want to say is you'll be in the environment, you'll be out in nature, you'll be surrounded by trees, grass, rocks, and you'll have to deal with different types of weather depending on where you are on the trail. Mm-hmm. And I think we can talk about that part of the environment first before we deal with like the people or the
Animals,
towns.
The towns, yeah. And the weather for us, well, at the beginning, we actually hit a hailstorm first week. I mean, we didn't have service at all at that part of the trail. We didn't have phone service, and we didn't look it up on our GPS, or we didn't
have a functioning GPS the first week of the trail.
So we couldn't even look it up on there. But we see this massive black cloud with lightning in it coming towards us.
Yeah.
And we're like, I'm pretty sure that's coming our way. We should probably pitch the tent. And we did. We found this nice little nook, and it turned into a hailstorm. Yeah. Massive lightning and thunder, and and that was fun.
I think in the SoCal section of the trail, the biggest environmental hurdle you had to overcome was the heat.
Oh, yes. So when we started in March, even the town people told us this was a record-breaking heat.
The town people.
The locals, whenever we go into a town, they would tell us this was a record-breaking March heat month, which I did not like. This is why I wanted to start in March, was because of the colder climates, not having to sweat so much, or electrolytes, and just the sun exposure. And so I had to problem solve like heat big time with electrolytes, salt, getting into shade when I needed to. I'd get really dizzy and feel like I was about to pass out at times. And so when that would happen, I would literally need to sit down in the shade if we could find shade.
Yeah. I think if you're okay talking about it, you would have literal breakdowns on trail. You would stop and you'd cry and you would say, I hate this. I don't want to be here right now.
Yes. So I guess that also goes into mental, emotional too. But I think that the sun exposure on top of carrying so much weight, because we were carrying a lot of weight at the beginning, and those two factors, my body was just having a hard time adjusting. And I would literally break down crying and saying, I don't know if I can keep going right now. I'm just so tired. And it would feel like I couldn't even take another step sometimes. Yeah. And I remember specifically between Mary's place, I needed water so bad. And it was just it was like 90 something degrees out there.
We called that stretch one of the 7 levels of hell.
It was a 7 level of hell. You could not find shade at all. I only had a thing to put over my head. I was sweating profusely.
You couldn't even find enough shade for a good poop that day.
No, like it was.
It's bad.
That's right. I think I pooped and it was just open landscape that day.
You're like getting a sunburn on your posterior.
So bad. And it was just a hot day. And I remember when we got to Mary's place that other people were also saying what a hard day that was. It was just a hot day, sweating. And I remember crying and being like, are we almost there? Because I don't know if I can keep going. I'm so weak right now.
So I know that we got through the desert. We got through the desert heat whenever we finally hit Kennedy South.
I was so over that heat.
So you had to mentally fortify yourself. But how did you keep going? Like, why didn't you just stop?
I think because I didn't feel like there was a plan B, an option B. There was no quit in my head. So it's like I knew that I needed to get it out. I needed to feel it. I needed to cry. I needed to express how I was feeling. But there was never a part of me that said, I need to quit. I think there was a part of me that's like, I don't know if I can keep going, but that's just me feeling this moment right here. But I think there was just such a resolve already that there was no quit in my head. We were just going to keep going. And we had given up a lot to do this hike. Like we had sold everything. We had taken time off of life. I mean, so there really wasn't an option B for us to go back to.
Yeah. I feel like we would get up 2-3 o'clock in the morning and start our hike by 5. a lot of days in the desert. And I feel like on days where we got up early and we were out by 4 or 5 o'clock, that helped you mentally. But the days where we slept in and we weren't gone until 8 or 9 and you knew the heat was just around the corner, you didn't handle those days as well.
I did not. I think it was honestly knowing that we were going to be in heat all day again. And when you're out there every single day for that long and you have no shade, it really does a number to you.
Yeah.
And
it's a mental drain.
It is. But when we would get up really early before the sun got up, we'd already get in like 8 miles before the sun, or 10 miles before the heat would hit.
10 before 10, baby.
10 before 10.
20 before 2.
Yeah. And so it became a game with the sun. Mm-hmm. It was like learning, even problem solving. It's like, well, the sun's going to hit hard around 9 o'clock or 9:30, and it's already going to be hot. Yeah. So how do we problem solve then this and then take a siesta?
In retrospect, would you have taken a sun umbrella with you?
No.
No? No. that was a very definitive response.
I don't know. Well, maybe looking back, maybe I would have taken an umbrella into SoCal. The rest of it I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It felt like an added extra weight.
Yeah, neither one of us took an umbrella.
We did not. And maybe in SoCal it might have been helpful. That took a lot for me to problem solve, was the sun. And it did get better, I think, as we would get up really early, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
It would.
Leave by 4 or 5 and like be out.
And we didn't have it nearly as bad as people who started
in May,
late March, April, and May.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they had a hot experience. I mean, and
they
like
were
I said, but they did say ours were record breaking heats. Like we had 95 degrees out there.
It was 101, 105.
101 or 105 in Cabazon.
Yeah, when we reached the underpass at Cabazon.
Yeah, and that was a hot day. So, like, just to give a perspective, that was in early March.
Yeah.
So then everybody else coming behind us, I felt really bad for them.
I know.
I was like, dang, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
That was hard. And then the Sierras were hard. That was hard for you.
Yeah, I guess I'll touch on that real quick. For me, the Sierras were hard. I was still carrying the same amount of food that I would for a normal day in SoCal, and my body was at a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
And also at a sleep deficit. I do not function well without at least 6 hours of sleep.
He does not.
And the Sierras, we were in it in the middle of the thaw, so we were up and hiking by 2, 3 a.m. just so that we could walk on the first couple inches of snow and not post hole up to our waist. Sleep deprivation was a real problem.
It was a real problem in there.
And I really didn't get that under control until we reached Mammoth.
And I think, too, I feel like the first few months for us was learning a lot.
Yeah.
But the Sierras, a lot of people talk about the Sierras, and they talk about how much they love the Sierras, and we were really looking forward to the Sierras. We both knew, though, it's still in snow world, and that's going to be hard. And again, we had been told that May was the time to enter the Sierras.
It was just a hot season.
However, since it was a hot year, the thaw had already started in April. So we were hitting 8 feet of snow in the thaw.
Yeah.
So it hit at a weird time.
Yeah.
So I think that was what, environment-wise, we really had to problem solve.
We did.
The Sierras.
And that's another environmental challenge that we had to overcome. I mean, really, you had to overcome because I was okay with it. Mm-hmm. But water crossings.
Oh.
Because
I had such a problem with water crossings.
I mean, yeah, the water's cold. It'll make your butt pucker a little bit. But you were truly terrified whenever we would see water crossings come up.
Well, and I think, the reason, though, was because it was after Mono Creek. I think the way that the thaw hit for us, and it was hitting at a weird time. So places that people had commented on the trail the year before at the same time were saying stuff like, nothing here, it's barely a crossing. And there was a specific one that we got to. It was Mono Creek. And Mono Creek, no one talked about. No one had talked about this creek. And I think we hit it at a time where it was 6 p.m., which you're not supposed to hit water crossings around that time because it's all melting.
Yeah, the snow's had all day in the sun to melt.
Yeah, but again, no one had commented on Mono Creek yet. It was like this rapid 4. And this means if you lose your balance, you're getting swept overboard.
Is that the one where you had to hold my hand?
That's the one I asked him if I could hold his hand because we hiked hundreds of feet north-south to see if we could do a different crossing. They were all dangerous. It was all intense rapids. There were drop-offs.
And when she says hundreds of feet south, you should know that it goes straight down. Like
Yeah, it goes straight
downhill.
Down. Yeah, like you're going to drop off at this spot if you fall.
Yeah.
And so it was a really scary moment. And so I asked Wesley if I could hold his hand so that we could cross, because I felt like I would have gotten swept over if I had been by myself. Not even half a mile later, we run into a waterfall rapid. So then there's this massive waterfall that is just churning down into another drop-off.
What's the name of that one?
Something it was also, falls? I think, no, it wasn't even a waterfall on the map. It just said it was a creek crossing that people, again, had not commented on and hadn't said anything. And they had said, oh, it's just this cute little trickle. And when we got there, I was like, this is a raging waterfall. Oh my gosh. I slipped in it and fell like halfway in. I was so over it. So I think when it came to the water crossings, mentally, I don't know, a lot of females that I talked to also felt the same way.
What was it that was so intimidating about them? Was it the thought of being swept away?
Yeah, I think it was the feeling of losing control. And also it being, because if you're a female, you're a lot shorter. So it's you don't have as much control. And so you're already fully immersed, and then you're hoping you don't get swept away. It was like anxiety-driven attacks for females of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to cross another water again.
What about the mosquitoes in Oregon?
And the mosquitoes.
I think we didn't suffer as much as other people did. But people would talk about how they were practically having mental breakdowns, feeling trapped by the mosquitoes surrounding their tent. That must have been difficult for them. I think after the Sierras, the hardest thing that I had to deal with was wet, rainy days, because I hate being wet.
Yes, you did not like the cold, wet rain.
The cold, wet rain in NorCal, and then we had it again for a few days in Washington. It was miserable.
Yeah, that's another thing that happened in NorCal. So we were meeting my aunt and uncle
just before Donner Pass.
Just before, Donner Pass area, and we were supposed to meet them at a specific day, and all of a sudden the weather turned shit, and it was like super cold. The temperature dropped into really cold, probably 40 degrees, and all of a sudden it was raining.
It rained hard all day, and it rained sideways.
And I'm just like, let's go! And Wesley is getting colder and colder by the minute. He's like, should we stop? I'm like, no, let's keep going.
Yeah.
And finally, he stops.
I stopped because this was a stretch before we reached one of the ski resorts, and it was about a 4-mile long ridge walk, exposed.
Very exposed.
And just the thought of doing that in this hard, cold, blowing rain, and the wind was just ripping. It felt impossible for me. And she turned around, and I couldn't see this because, it was happening on my person. But she said that my lips were blue, and I could see that I was feverishly shaking.
I was scared.
And so I was like, I can't do this right now.
And I went, oh, okay, we're pitching the tent like right now.
And so this was at 8 or 9 o'clock, wasn't it?
It was early. We'd only gone a couple miles.
So we pitched the tent. Everything got soaking wet. So we're inside the tent, and I'm still turning blue, and I'm still shaking. And so I was approaching a hypothermic state at that point.
It was scary.
On top of already having food poisoning from eating
something.
Cheese. It was cheese.
It was cheese.
Yeah, be careful how you store your cheese on trail. And I was kind of loopy at that point, and we were watching Stranger Things that we had downloaded in the tent. And I think that was probably more of a difficult situation for you than me.
I was scared.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know, like, you were shaking for hours in your sleeping bag. And I was trying to warm them up, like nothing was helping.
Yeah.
And then you finally stopped shaking.
I finally warmed up. It took a while.
But it did take a long time.
A few hours, but I think it was a good call to stop.
I'm glad that you said something, because that could have really been a bad situation. But yeah, you will encounter things like that on trail.
Yeah.
Where it just all of a sudden happens, and you have to problem solve in the moment. You have to figure out what you're going to do and listen to your body, because I would have just barreled through and probably gotten hypothermia middle of the way.
Yeah. So what I would suggest to you is to look at the different sections of the trail that you're going to be hiking. Look at the roundabout time that you'll be going through and some of the worst case scenarios that can happen in that type of terrain during that type of season. And mentally prepare yourself. If you at least have an idea of what can happen to you, and even if you just jog your memory on how to problem solve those situations, then you won't go into the state of immediate shock and fear like you would had you had no idea it was going to happen.
For sure. And then the mosquitoes, we didn't hit the mosquitoes until middle Oregon, or
yeah, they weren't really bad until
yet.
Oregon.
Yeah. But in Oregon, we had literally hundreds of mosquitoes. I don't want to downplay though what we experienced, because we did have hundreds of mosquitoes following us, and you had to problem solve again because you just get these bites all over you. We found out our rain jackets work really well to put over you. Like the mosquitoes can't seem to get...
They can't bite you through it, but you're also going to be in your own personal sauna.
Yeah, you're going to be hot.
But then in Washington, the big environmental issues were, I guess, for me, more annoying than problematic were the biting flies.
The biting flies, yeah.
And then the fires.
The fires were bad, yes. The biting flies were not fun. Those hurt so bad. And we had a lot of them.
God, they're just these little assholes.
Yeah.
They're just flying around you. You can't catch them.
And they never go away.
I know. And you have to slap the mess out of your leg to kill them.
And then the fires, that was probably the most intense. And they're also kind of scary. Fires, you don't know what they're going to do.
They're scary because you're afraid of the fact you could be trapped.
Yeah.
You could suffer from severe smoke inhalation. I mean, worst case scenario, you could die, but also you've put forth so much energy and effort to get to where you are in Washington by that point.
Yeah.
That the thought of a fire that you can't control ending your hike, which you'd been in control of, is terrible.
I would get very upset when the environment would stop us because like what Wesley just said, you cannot control the environment. You can't. I would get so angry whenever the environment would come into our experience, and I would be like, why is it raining right now? Or something like that. And then the fires happened, and I just remember Wesley saying, you can't control the weather. You can't control the environment.
No.
All you can control is you and what you're gonna do with that.
When you're dealing with the elements and going on these long through hikes, you have to deal with risk assessment. So you assessing the possible risks and the scene before you, and then risk tolerance. How much of that risk you're allowing to tolerate, or you're allowing yourself to tolerate or not. Do you assess this as too much, and is it unsafe? Should you do a hike around? Should you go back to town and wait something out?
Which people did.
And
it's smarter to wait it out, honestly. Like if you've got a big storm coming or there's a snowstorm, just wait it out. You don't want to be stuck in your tent.
Yeah, you got more entertainment in town than inside your tent, so.
Yeah.
At least on 2 occasions, we would have hikers tell us that you need to surrender. You need to surrender to the process, surrender to the environment and the elements and what you're experiencing. And I say that is a big, steamy pile of garbage.
Wesley did not like that term.
I think it's bullshit. Because, at least just me, everyone has their own process, but I refuse to surrender. I refuse to just give in to that. But what I will do is accept how small I am. I'll accept how uncontrollable the elements are. And I will accept that I'm either in or out of control in a situation. And from that point, I'll make the right call based on how I feel and what you felt on trail. And if you don't believe the same way that I do, that's fine. If you're the surrender type of person, good. If you're in the middle, that's also okay. In the end, handle the situations how you deem best and what your gut check says.
I guess talking about animals, I had a hard time at the beginning because when you're in a tent and you have it's a tent. It's really like
it's a false sense of security.
Yeah, it's a false sense of security. And when you're out there and you start hearing the rustling of leaves, at the beginning.
Or twig snap.
Or twig snapping. I mean, you instantly think there's a bear. It's going to come to our tent. It's going to attack us. And we're going to die. Like, that's where my brain would go every time I would hear. And I would wake Wesley up. He could sleep like a baby on trail. And I could not. But I just learned through that process, I think hiking for 6 months, that the animals are
on the whole,
are not going to hurt you.
And they don't want to.
And they don't want to. They want to actually hide or leave you more than anything. And I think when an animal is in it is in the moment of attack, it's because they're so scared that you're going to kill them or hurt them, or they're trying to protect and trying to get something. Like, that's why they attack. It's not from a place of, I just want to kill you because, you know, I want to kill.
Yeah.
Animals aren't like that.
Humans are associated as predators in the animal world because our eyes are in the front of our head, and predators have eyes aligned in the front side of their head, whereas prey, like cattle, deer, they have alignment on the sides. Yes. Yeah. And so why would a predator attack another predator unnecessarily?
So mountain lions, bears.
We never saw a mountain lion.
We did not.
From what I can tell, they're jerks. But we never saw one, so we didn't have to deal with that. But we did come across a bear.
We did.
Sweet honey bear. It saw us, and it just moseyed on off in its own little direction, eating some more grass.
It wanted nothing to do with us.
Nothing.
No.
The only animals that came into close contact with us were the occasional baby mouse, like just peeking its head underneath the tent, and the deer. The deer
loved us.
Would come into our tent sites, and they really like to eat your urine because of the electrolytes.
They love your pee, strangely. And what we learned in the national parks, the deer are not scared of you. They will approach you. They do not care because they don't look at humans as killing them.
They've been domesticated.
Yeah, national parks actually, you're not allowed to hunt in national parks in California, or really that's anywhere. But you go through a lot of national parks on the PCT, and all these deer would come up to us, or they'd come up to our campsite and they would eat our pee right in front of us. Like, it was no big deal.
You would hear this thunderous rooting in the middle of the night, and it's just a deer like hoofing at the dirt. But on the whole, the animals are only as dangerous as your imagination plays them up to be.
And then rattlesnakes. So everybody gets scared of rattlesnakes on trail. I was terrified. I almost got bit by one because it was really pissed. Yeah. And probably everybody had passed it, and it was probably trying to eat or something. But one of our friends, she studied herpetology. She told us that rattlesnakes do not want to sting you or bite you. Because once they bite you, their fangs actually will get stuck. And so rattlesnakes don't want to bite. That's like their last option.
Yeah. And so this poor rattlesnake was on a precipitous ledge, and then there's the trail to the left. So you've got about 2 foot of trail and then a steep mountain. So every hiker had to pass through there, and every hiker was probably pissing it off more and more progressively. And it finally just had it.
Here I come.
Here base camp comes.
And I jumped behind Wesley when I heard it.
She jumped behind me. And honestly, it just, I just talked to it calmly. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it just went downhill a couple of feet and let us pass, and it was doing its thing. Yeah. And we amicably parted ways.
We did. Yeah. And then there's a mama hawk. We had been reading like comments from other people saying, warning, warning, warning. There's a mama hawk that's dive bombing people. And one of our friends, Mama Troll, had been literally pecked out by it. It had pecked his head. Like, I think he had 3 open wounds on his forehead. Yeah, so that mama hawk, we get to that part, and
this is a boss level.
People would comment on the notes and say, if you hear it starting to screech, just duck. So here we go into this section, and you can hear it. It definitely started making noises at us, but it didn't dive bomb us. Yeah. We kept our heads down, and Wesley talked to it calmly.
I swear, talking to these animals does
think
something.
They know.
I think they know.
You're smart.
It's the honey butter voice.
It's that honey butter. Yeah,
that's what
it is. So that was our environmental aspect.
I also want to take this into the next topic of the environment. Probably one of the most beautiful, wonderful, but also scary and intimidating living things you'll encounter out there is people. Humans. Whether they are related to or completely not related to the PCT, they are a part of the environment that you'll experience on trail. Because again, your environment is everything that surrounds you, both living and non-living, controllable and uncontrollable. You can hike by yourself, or you can hike with other hikers. And that can either be a good or a bad environment, depending on the people that you are hiking with.
Yeah, and sometimes you can, like, if you don't want to hike with someone or you don't like someone, you can just hike slower and let them pass. Or hike faster, or get out of a town. Sometimes it happens on trail.
I would say surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you. And then you'll come across trail angels They'll be at parking lots or trailheads.
Yeah, we had some really beautiful people that gave us so much out of the kindness of their heart. It was wild.
I do also want to real quick mention that whenever you've been out in nature, in the physical environmental world, you can't see my air quotes, but I just did them. And you walk into a parking lot and you see a tent pitched.
Oh,
Like not a hiker or backpacker's tent, like a big
Trail
party
magic.
tent.
oh,
And you see coolers and grills out there.
get ready.
You're like, this is the best type of environment ever.
Just get ready.
Just get ready, because that's going to change your whole perspective on the day, regardless of what it was.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you're having a bad day
Uh-huh.
and someone brings in some trail magic and they bring you hot food, burgers, hot dogs, beer, ice cold water, Coca-Cola, ice cream. Like, I mean, I can't.
You're making my mouth drool.
I know, I'm like getting excited. I might tear up a little bit just thinking about
Are you
it.
getting a little heated?
Like a trailgasm?
Yeah. That's a great one, a trailgasm.
Why didn't we think of that on trail?
We talked about foodgasms a lot.
Foodgasms for sure.
That's a real thing.
That is a real thing. When you've been hiking and all you're eating is like ramen and just pastries and
You don't even need to be
tortillas.
high for the food to taste good.
Oh my God. When you eat a pizza for the first time in town, you're just like
Yeah,
ecstasy.
it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's a high. It's great.
And then, so you've experienced this awesome trail magic, and then you got to figure out how to get a hitch into town. And you're standing out on the hot asphalt for 5 minutes, several hours, with your thumb up, hoping that someone takes pity on your disgusting, filthy, smelly self.
We always had luck in hitches, though. We really did. And
yeah.
I don't know if it's because we were this cute matching couple.
I think a single male would have a harder time than a coupled up
Yes.
male.
Females seem to always get hitches faster.
Yes.
And that's a trick of the trade as well, is if you're a male. Even males told us this later in the hike, that they would find a female that they were friends with and be like, hey, can we hitch into town together?
Yeah. But then you get this hitch, and you're in this person's vehicle, and you're at their mercy, and that can be a scary environment to be in.
You hope they're a nice person.
You hope that they're a good person, that you're not going to get some wacko who makes you feel uncomfortable. We really lucked out with hitches. Everybody we had was pretty solid. So yeah, I would say that hitching is one of the more difficult environments or situations to handle, because
You don't know.
you say yes or no whenever they stop, and you either get in or you don't. So you've taken your hitch, you've safely gotten into town, and you're in the polar opposite of the nature that you had just been hiking in.
Quiet with birds.
What do they
and
call
water.
it? The Iron Jungle or something like that?
That sounds about right.
Maybe. We're going to call towns Iron Jungles.
Iron Jungle.
So you get into town,
It is a jungle.
and you have all these tourists or these locals or these other people who are not hiking that trail with you, and they don't know what you've been experiencing.
They don't understand.
But some of them will.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, they're like diamonds in the rough. It's so reassuring to find people who know hikers or have hiked, and they can empathize with you.
And it's cool too, and like they'll pay for our meals because they just wanted to hear about our stories on trail, and they'll ask us questions, and then at the end somebody will be like, hey, so and so paid for your meal, and you're like, what? We weren't expecting that. And it was really sweet to see that too, how people would really, they just wanted to hear about what we had done and the stories, because it's like some of these people, it's because they wanted to do it and they never got the opportunity to do it, or feel like they never got the opportunity. So they want to hear what we went through, which is cool.
You get into a town and you're going to stink. You're going to look dirty. And I mean, you're going to stick out. You've got a giant backpack on your back. You've got short shorts on. You've got a golden tan. You've got a godlike body. By the time you get to town, and most people appreciate hikers. They appreciate hiker business.
Most people do.
And you're very rarely going to have a negative experience. But when you do, it'll hit you hard. We experienced levels of isolation and
judgment
from people.
Sure.
Just because of how we looked, how we smelled, and because we were always lugging around our backpacks.
Yeah.
But on the whole, we would always be served. And people would take care of us, even if it was to the bare minimum. Every once in a while, we would get like a negative comment or shout from someone in a vehicle. And every once in a while, a restaurant would ask us to leave our packs outside. Unless it is a very small town and you can keep eyes on your pack, I would strongly advise to never leave your pack outside.
Or just eat outside.
Eat outside if you can, but don't
Yeah.
separate yourself from your pack if you can avoid it. And also, just make smart decisions on the people that you hang out with when you're in
And I
town.
think that's what's great about creating a tramily, because then if you are a single female hiker, you know, you have like guys, girls in that tramily that you do hang out with in town, and you know, you get to know each other and hike together. And
But about the good, towns are what you look forward to whenever you're on trail. You're dreaming about the
you're
food
dreaming of food.
and a bed and a shower times 5.
Yeah.
You know, town is where you go to reset yourself, both physically and, more importantly, mentally, because you need rest days when you're out there hiking.
You do.
And towns provide more of a calm, stable environment for you to do that.
And then resupply. That is where you then resupply. It's
Yeah.
all the food you need to get back on trail, you have to get it in town.
We would sometimes plan to go and take 1-0. We would take a second and call it a mental health or mental wellness day. I'm sure you've done the same thing for your jobs. You call in sick.
Vacation. Yeah.
Well, yeah, vacations, or you call in sick. And to yourself, you're calling it a mental wellness day. And that's a real thing, because mental unhealth can cause you to get physically sick.
Something I experienced is a lot of people didn't want to hear the hardship that we experienced on the trail. They wanted to hear the good, and they wanted to hear how amazing it was, because we're not working. We're not in this grind of society or life anymore. And we're getting to actually just be out in nature all day, every day. And we're getting to be physically active. And there are so many beautiful components to that, I will say. But there are a lot of mental days where you are feeling like you're going crazy because you're out there with nothing. You don't have any comforts. You don't have any security. You truly are stripped of everything. And you have to learn how to be in that space. And there are days where it's really hard. And so when you go back into a town and you get real food, that actually does something for your mental health out there. It really does.
And this will segue into the other part of the environment. We didn't have any issues with vehicles in town, but whenever we did our 80-something mile,
114.
Wow, I was way off. 114-mile road walk around the Lion's Head closure.
I calculated the shit out of that one.
We were walking on roads the entire time, and we experienced a level of anxiety, and I would say fear as well, that we didn't experience on roads in town, because we're hiking on these very narrow shoulders. There are these giant monsters coming at us constantly that could kill us if the driver loses control.
Or they don't look, or they're looking down or looking at their phone.
Each car or each big rig that passes, your life is in that driver's hands. And you hope that they see you and that they're paying attention to you.
And something that helped, I think, later in the road walks, like day 3 or 4, was starting to do the honk symbol with the 18-wheelers.
When you pump your arm and the 18-wheelers honk.
Yeah, that actually helped me. The anxiety left me as I would do that, because it was like they were aware of us, they were playing a game with us, and cars around them were aware of us too. And so that really helped a lot.
The road walk was kind of an intimidating, hot environment to be in.
That's something we didn't touch on in our physical.
We missed the woods.
It was exposing, and it was we got really bad heat rash.
Yeah, we didn't mention that in the physical, but we did experience a pretty intense heat rash. The only other thing that happened bad on the road walk was, and this is another environmental issue, be mindful of people's dogs. We were walking into Madras. These people had
3 or 4 dogs.
3 or 4 dogs behind like a 1.5 foot tall fence. Why the hell do you even bother to make a fence 1.5 foot tall? And a Rottweiler jumped over the fence.
No, they opened up. They broke the fence.
They broke it?
I saw the thing come open.
I didn't even see what happened there.
Yeah.
But
they got free.
All these dogs got free, and the Rottweiler comes up to us. I mean, basically, I had to stand between base camp and the dog. I put my trekking poles up, and thank God that shocked the dog or something.
Yeah.
Because the dog stopped, and it jumped back. And it almost got hit by an 18-wheeler on the road.
Yeah, good thing the 18-wheeler saw what was happening to us.
But I think to wrap up the environmental dynamic and just the emotional and, what am I trying to say? Yeah, I'm just going to say emotional challenges that you'll encounter there. A lot of it has to do with just making the right decisions and knowing before you go. You can't control the weather. You can't control the elements. and you can't control what other people do or say. But what you can control is how prepared you are for the weather, how you react to adverse situations in the wild, and who you put yourself into contact with. As long as you have a bank of knowledge that you can pull from in a situation, even if you're not an expert in it, that will help you. Mm-hmm. And you'll know and be able to come to the right decision and call for yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. So do you want to read us an excerpt from Social?
Yeah, I'll do a quick excerpt on this.
Okay.
Social challenges have to do with the people you meet on and off trail, hike with, or pass by, your significant other or spouse, and those people from your normal life that hold space in your heart and thoughts. Your relationship with these people, whether long, brief, or non-existent, will invade your mind and influence your hike. While I can't speak from first-hand experience to other long-distance trails just yet, people are all over the PCT. You'll see other thru hikers or section hikers almost daily. Near towns, there will be day or weekend hikers, or even just a group of bros hiking on some beers by the water. You'll get texts from loved ones and wonder what other friends or family are doing if you haven't heard from them in a while. You'll miss your spouse or partner if they're not with you. Or, like us, you may develop a deeper love for them if they dare venture out with you. So yeah, that was kind of the intro to the social aspect of things. Yeah? You like that?
Got me excited a little bit.
That deeper connection we've built. But I think this is probably one of the more common things you'll deal with in the middle of your hike, and especially depending on your start date. If you start later on, so late March or in the heat of summer, you'll probably have to deal with the bubble. So way more hikers than the early start date hikers would have to deal with.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the bubble, but that's my personal opinion. So.
For the most part, I would say that the other hikers, they're all good people.
I mean, most people were very just beautiful souls. They cared about the environment. We had very similar like-mindedness, I would say, most hikers and us.
And you'll meet people out there who want to like throw you a snack or offer you a ride if they're just doing a day hike and about to head back to the trailhead.
Oh, yeah.
If you need a lift into town, you'll come across all those things. And the people who are hiking the PCT out there with you, I mean, you form a bond with them. Was there a situation where you felt particularly bonded to people? Would you say the Sierras?
I think the Sierras were probably the most. I believe in SoCal in the desert, we had such great and happy memories with friends, and we were building those new relationships, and we found so many good people in the desert. And then the Sierras, I think, because it was so scary from time to time, since we went through it in the snow, and we're going through at least 8 feet of snow consistently. And just really bonding with people when we would climb these passes, because you have so much anxiety. But when you're doing it together and you're cheering each other on and you get to the top and you take pictures together, there's such a high and a bondingness, which in neuroscience they talk about that, that you bond to people when you go through like intense activity like that.
You can say traumatic. I would say some of that stuff was traumatic out there.
Yeah, and so if you're with certain people and you're all rooting each other on and you're there for each other, you do bond in a very different way, for sure.
And I would say that bonding with other people in that way is a way to mentally fortify yourself. Because if you're going through something traumatic, but you're in touch or bonded to this other person or people that you're hiking with, I mean, it gives you a stronger sense of confidence. And not only do you get that from hiking with a group, you get like this pack mentality. You know, you can do this because you're with other people. There's strength in numbers. I mean, it's just what happens when you're doing things like this with others. And then I also want to talk about maybe a little bit of a negative twist to this is the folks in town you come across. On the whole, people in town are very kind. They're accommodating to hikers. And in certain seasons, I mean, we're a huge chunk of their business. So of course they're going to be nice to us and welcome us in. But we did have a few negative experiences in town. Only one of them had to do with an establishment and the staff there. The rest, it was just a bunch of randos in town that we came across.
We went to, I'm just going to say it because, but it was the Idlewild Brewery. We went there with 2 of the other hikers, Juices and Hey Google, and I was so hungry. I was so looking forward to a burger and beer, and I'm so excited. And we go in, and we had already showered, but we were wearing borrowed clothes because we had gotten all of our clothes. They were being washed. And Deuces and Hey Google, I do not believe had showered yet. So they still had their packs with them. They had just gotten into town. And this server comes up to us, won't even look us in the eye, and just ask us if we can have, like, what do we want?
We're sitting outside.
And I'm like, can we try some beers? She comes back maybe 15 minutes later with these samples, leaves us. We wait another 10 or 15 minutes for her to come back. Like, it's like we had to catch her to try to get beers. Mm-hmm. And so we finally get beers maybe 40 minutes later. I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, you know what? It's really busy out here. Maybe she's just really busy. And Wesley got the wrong beer. So then we're trying to catch someone else to get the right beer. Almost an hour has gone by. And I made a comment, and I was like, I think she's not helping us because we're hikers. Like, that could be wrong. However, she won't look us in the eye. She hasn't even given us a food menu. And I'm so hungry. Mm-hmm. I can't even find her. And I look over, and a table had been sat 30 minutes before us, or I'm sorry, 30 minutes after us that we'd gotten there.
And they were eating. And
they already had food, and I saw her coming out to them and laughing with them and cutting up with them. But every time she'd even try to come over to us, I literally was like, it looks like we're a waste of her time.
Yeah.
And so I lose it.
And it was aggravating too, because whenever we would try and ask another server or bartender for help, they would say, ask your server. So, I've never had another restaurant do that before.
It was very weird. So then finally we're like, let's just get the check. There was a lot more complication besides that, but we finally went to a pizza place across the street, and it was a much better experience. And so it was just such a strange moment where it was like, okay, I don't think it's because we're not just humans here who she doesn't like us. Like, legitimately, she didn't want to serve us. And that was the only experience we ever had that on trail.
Yeah, from establishment. And plenty of other people have said that they love the Idlewild Brew Pub. That was just our experience on that one.
Yeah.
The first time we went to Julian for Marie's base camp's birthday, we went to the Julian Brew Pub. What's with all these brew pubs? That's like an MO. We went to the brew pub. We sat outside with our food and beer. We walked by these two guys whose table was like right behind ours. And one of the guys just like mumbles, fucking hikers. He's like, it must be that time already. And I mean, whatever, dude. Have your opinions, but keep them to yourself, or at least not to where we can hear them.
I will say, for the most part, like, the good outweighed the bad in that world. Those were like a few instances. Those were the only ones we experienced.
Yeah.
But they were painful. I mean, it's really difficult when you're being judged by other people and they don't even know you. Especially
when you've been in the backcountry hiking hundreds to thousands of miles, and you feel very proud of what you've done. You feel proud of what your friends have done. And to have someone you don't know, who doesn't know what you've gone through, talk down to you like that, it's hard. Mm-hmm. But again, so many people all over the planet experience this on a daily basis in different and varying ways. Yeah. So for us to only have it happen to us a few times in such isolated experiences, I would say that we were fortunate for that.
And I do want to say this does not compare at all to what other people experience in discrimination and prejudice. But I do feel like we got just a tiny taste, like a drop in the ocean, to what other people experience every single day. And I just want to say, if you're listening to this and you do experience prejudice or discrimination, I'm so sorry, because it's not okay that people don't see you for who you are.
It's hurtful.
Yeah, and not want to hear your stories and your experience, but they just look at you and they just instantly judge you based off the color of your skin or the way you dress or the way your hair looks, or whatever it may be.
Whenever you heard those people say things like fucking hikers, et cetera, it's that time again, how did that make you feel? And did you have to sort through it over time, or did it just kind of dissipate like that?
I think it still brings up something in me.
Yeah.
I think I still feel this weird judgment of someone not wanting to actually approach and ask a question, and not wanting to understand who I am, but more looking at me like I'm in this whole bracket. and thinking that I must be this dirty, trashy person that's going to trash this establishment or not tip well or not give back to society, but just take, was kind of the impression I was getting from some people. So I think it still stings a little, but I think at the same time, being able to register it and acknowledge it and say, oh, this has happened. I feel that pain and I want to know how to grow through that and become better myself. Like, how do I then not do that to other people? So it really helped me go into a different space of empathy, I think.
One thing you discovered is that when people would ask us how our experience or trail has been so far, and we would give them like good comments, but they didn't really receive like the negative things that happened on trail a lot. And that happened to you way more than me. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, sure. I think because, when you're out there for 7 days and you have nothing but your backpack, there is some mental challenges there. There's some physical challenges you're enduring. And it can get very hard. There are days where you're exhausted. There are days where you just want to cry. And so there would be times where we would go into town and I would, people would ask how it was going. And I would start to tell them about these things. And they would just look at me and go, but isn't it fun though, right? Aren't you having fun? And I just remember saying, well, I don't know if I'd ever
call it fun.
Call through hiking fun. I'd call it rewarding. I would call it awe-inspiring. I would call it life-changing. But most things that are really fucking hard aren't fun. They hurt. And then afterwards, you look back and you go, oh my goodness, I'm a better person because of this. And so it was just such an interesting comment that people would say, well, aren't you having fun? I'm like, I laugh sometimes, but I also cry. I feel every emotion when I'm on trail. Every single emotion is completely unhindered and unhinged out there. So it's I feel the highest of the highs. I feel the lowest of the lows. And then some days I felt nothing. I just enjoyed the quietness of hearing the birds chirp.
That was really all the hardships that we had to deal with other people. And I will say, as far as other hikers go, again, they were all great. But something we did experience that we did not anticipate was the bubble being dumped on our heads. We don't hike the fastest on trail. We hike pretty average, but we had days where we would just kill some miles. But that didn't have any influence on what happened. So around Sisters, fires broke out.
Big fires,
And those fires
in NorCal and Oregon,
closed huge chunks of the trail. And so everybody approaching that section, aka the bubble, was forced to jump ahead or jump off trail. And those who jumped ahead landed right on the area we were on.
Frog Lake Trailhead.
which sucked.
It was the worst.
It sucked for us. I know it had to suck for them because they had to change the plans that they had for their hike. And it was just unfair for all parties, really. It just felt
like a clusterfuck. It was one of those moments where it was like a bubble times 5. It wasn't even the bubble. It was this monster bubble, and we're all hitting each other at the same time. So we couldn't find campsites, and we had to camp in a ditch one time because we couldn't find anything. It was just constantly having to play this game of, if we hike faster, will we get to a campsite faster? And then other people would only hike 10 miles to get to a campsite, and they would camp at 3 p.m. And I'm like, well, we have to get more miles than 10 miles. So we'd do 25 or 30. So we just keep going until we hoped we could find a campsite.
And when all this happened, we found ourselves bitching and moaning about the whole circumstance and how we were having to camp in a ditch, foot clear a spot for us to pitch our tent on. And as we got to know more and more of these hikers, they weren't just the bubble. They were hikers with trail names, and they had their own story.
It helped a lot.
And it helped us empathize.
And so nature, again, does, create a curveball sometimes that you cannot control.
You can't control the fires.
No, you cannot.
All you can do is control when you start and how fast you blow through the areas it might burn.
In hiking world, something that I've learned being back here that's different than hiking is when there's somebody that you're like, ooh, I don't really want to hike with this person. What you can do on a trail is you can normally just hike slower or hike faster, and you may never see them again. Here in the cotton world, you can't get away from people. There's no way.
Especially at your place of employment.
Yeah, you can't just hike slower or faster.
You can't work faster and get away from
Yeah.
it.
So there is a dynamic that's a little different on trail, where if you can choose who you want to be with on trail. And I love that. Mm-hmm. It feels very empowering.
It does. It did. I think one other thing we should mention is varying hiker speeds. We had to deal with this, especially in the beginning. Because we started the trail with heavy packs, we didn't move very quickly. It was difficult whenever some tall, skinny hiker with their little dinky pack
come blowing past us.
Would blow past us. And I mean, we're competitive people. So it was hard for us to come to grips with the fact that we were getting passed all the time.
Well, and those were two different experiences for both of us, which this could be interpersonal.
Did you feel a way about people passing us in the Sierras?
Oh, yeah. When people would pass us and all of a sudden they're bragging. They talk about how they were doing 40-mile days. I literally internally be like, fuck you. Because I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong with my life? Because you don't even look like you're struggling. Uh-huh. I'm over here crying when I do a 30-mile day.
That's that effortless perfection right there.
Yeah, which we could talk about because that's the whole thing on trail that no one talks about. So how did you feel about when we would get passed?
Whew. Well, it bothered me for sure because I don't like to be passed. I like to pass people. And I like to know and feel that I'm strong, which of course I did as we continued to hike. It was hard for me to come to grips with the fact that we were being passed. One, because at least in me, I thought that I would be hiking faster if we weren't hiking as a team. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I was out there hiking the trail with you. I was never going to leave you, and I wanted to hike with you. Mm-hmm. So I had struggle sometimes with not pointing a finger at you and saying the reason we're getting past is because of our hiking speed, because we're going slower. And I think I came to grips with that after the first few weeks, especially after having a good talk with Decades. Decades was such a wonderful listener, and he had so much good feedback,
wisdom.
I think.
Yeah.
After really SoCal and in the Sierra section, once we're hiking through the snow and we're in the middle of the thaw season, you just can't hike fast. And that's when I kind of let go of being passed. And at that point, it was more survival and comfort than stupid, petty things like being competitive or being passed. So I think for me, the Sierras is whenever I was finally able to just let go of that. But I guess this is a good segue into the us component.
Our social.
Yeah, our social dynamic. Because if you're hiking with a spouse or if you meet someone on trail, you have to communicate and you have to compromise with that person if you're going to stay together on that hike. Because situations and problems arise that you never would have thought would. And if you don't talk those out and check in with the person you're hiking with, that can cause a rift between you. Like we said earlier, we had to talk a lot about hiking speeds and who leads when and compatibility on trail. There were only 2 scenarios where we did not hike together for a short period of time. And the first time that happened, was just outside of Deep Creek Hot Springs. There was a pretty intense climb. I had a lot of M&Ms.
A handful of M&Ms.
And a couple of shots of tequila. I asked base camp if I could just hike ahead or hike in front. Hike in front. Let me rephrase that. I asked if I could hike in front. And I read that as me just going unleashed and unhinged and flying uphill. And she interpreted it as
setting the pace,
but still hiking with her. And so I started to hike in front and I left her.
He took off in 5 seconds like the road runner.
And I couldn't see her and I stopped at the top of the climb and sat there.
For 15 minutes.
And when she finally came around the corner, I could
livid.
see steam coming out of her ears.
I felt so hurt.
And that's when we had our first big talk about not being compatible hikers on trail had we not known each other before we started.
But that began this bigger conversation for me of like, man, I feel like we're compatible outside of hiking, but in this world of through hiking, I don't feel like we're compatible at all. And because you wanted to take more zeros, but you would have hiked faster to take more zeros. I hike slower, so I don't want as many zeros.
Yeah.
And it did begin this conversation where we really had to hash out and talk through that idea.
And I'm very laissez-faire, kind of hands-off, kind of go with the flow-ish.
And I'm structured. I want to know, where are our water sources? What does the day look like? Where are the campsites coming up?
Yeah. It wasn't until it wasn't until Oregon when we realized this, but up to that point, we had lots of, like, I don't want to use arguments, but just intense conversations about our different dynamics, wants and needs out there. And Basecamp brought up a really good point that she hikes in front, I hike behind. We talk about intense things. We're not looking at each other and we're not touching. And for those types of conversations, I think we both can agree that eye contact and physical touch is very important because it's a different level of communication than just words. You and I both know I'm not the best with words, and sometimes things come out sideways for me. So whenever I'm looking at you and touching you and saying things, it's received differently than if I'm just speaking it.
No, it's very true. We did start doing that more and more in Oregon and Washington, which helped a lot. At the end of the day, I think I learned that what matters is not whether you're right or wrong. The connection is what matters most. And so where am I willing to compromise? And where am I willing to also, though, communicate back that this is what I need to? And I think we learned that balance as we were out there.
Yeah.
Of, okay, you're communicating your needs to me. I need to listen to that too.
To that, I'll say, and this also not only applies to relationships, but your work ethic, just give a shit. Like, try and fight for connection in the situations. Do your best. Communicate things that need to come out. And, you know, it will pay off in your favor. Should we talk about interpersonal?
So now intrapersonal.
Interpersonal. Okay, let me read the intro to this. When it's all said and done, at the end of each day, before you fall asleep, there will be you with yourself, your thoughts alone, even if you have a partner or a family. When your eyes close, your mind may race after a rough day riddled with adversity, or it might quickly quiet from a beautiful day of hard work and laughter. In each case, each experience on trail is only so impactful as you're willing to let it be. I won't say your thoughts and mine will be your own worst enemy, but there are just moments out there that will be hard. There's no easy way to get around that. You'll experience the extreme highs of majestic vistas, great moments with friends, and your brain will light up when you taste pizza after a week in the wilderness. Inversely, the lows may be rock bottom low. It won't be easy finding a calm or happy space if you're freezing cold and soaked to the bone after managing only a few miles and looking forward to cold-soaked ramen. The key is to accept that most anything can happen out there and sort through it within yourself. Have you ever seen the movie Inside Out before? Well, in the movie, each emotion is a character, and they all have to live with each other in harmony as best they can for the system to work. You may find yourself having internal conversations with your sadness and happiness at the same time, while your anger is holding on the other line. While hiking or in your bag at night, you may find yourself replaying choices you made, conversations with others, or interactions with folks from town, both good and bad. Two things to remember are, you can't control nature, so don't even try. And despite what happens or what's said, each person is just doing their own thing. And then from there, I just go into a little bit more detail on those two topics. You can't control nature. And then each person is just doing their own thing. To the nature component, we've already spoken about this a little bit, so we don't need to go into great detail. But those hikers that told us we need to surrender to the process of the trail, I mean, you pick your poison here. To them, I said it's complete garbage and that I won't surrender, but I'll accept the things I can and can't change. So what I would say to myself often on trail was the serenity prayer. I would just recite that to myself. And I found out that another hiker, Tumbleweed, really appreciated that, and he would listen to the man in the arena each morning. So we all had like our own little mantras to get us through things.
Can you actually say the Serenity Prayer real quick? I'm going to actually bring it up so that way people hear it and know what we're talking about.
So this is a Serenity Prayer if you've never heard it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so I would recite that to myself on a daily basis. And I think it really helped me because there were a lot of factors out there that I couldn't control, but what I could control was how I responded to it, especially the elements, because you're a small speck in this massive world, and the weather is going to do what it's going to. Other people are going to do what they're going to, and you just can't control that. So if you go into situations like a big through hike with a surrender mentality, that's your thing. You do not have to go in it with this aggressive anti-surrender mindset like I do, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. But whatever really gets you through the day is what you should follow. You just need to hike your own hike. Each person is just doing their own thing. And it is okay for you to do what you want and not follow the herd or not skip a section because Joe Blow is worried about the burn zone on a climb. Do you, and in the end of the day, I think you'll be happy that you did.
Yeah, and I think also something, we saw out there, we saw people skipping parts of the trail that weren't even burn sections. We began to find out that there were sections where someone could pick you up and then 40 miles later on the trail, they could drop you off. And so people were skipping like 40-mile sections in different places. And this was a really difficult thing for me to process because I think that the feeling of, not breaking your footpath, and this was our conviction that we were not going to do that. And we'd come so far, and to see people skipping like big chunks of sections, it just felt very disrespectful of the trail.
The trail and the integrity that people have for it.
Yeah, because I think then when we met these people, they would act like they were doing everything. And then when we even got to the monument, these people also got to the monument and they're acting like they did 2,653 miles. And I feel, honestly, anger about it because I felt like that was cheating.
If you've dedicated yourself to continuing on this hike and you've maintained a continuous footpath, you haven't skipped anything, you haven't been pushed ahead by any fires, you take pride in that because it's a daily suck fest. Even on good days, like you're going to suffer and you have to just kind of put your head down sometimes and doze through it. And so to see someone coming out there also claiming the title of a thru hiker who is yellow blazing or taking Forest Service roads because they don't want to do a climb, I mean, it hurts.
Physically hurts my body.
Hurts your body.
I had a physical reaction to people doing this. Somebody, it was Cuppa, had a great example of this. He said, if you're doing a race, you don't ever skip anything in a race, in a run, a marathon. You don't skip anything. You do the exact same trail that everybody else is doing. And if you skip anything, you don't get a medal.
No.
You don't actually finish the trail. Yeah. And what I think is very difficult about thru hiking is it really is your own hike. And you have to be able to live with seeing other people do things like that. And I was shocked. I didn't even realize people did that until we started seeing it. Again, I think what was the hardest part for me to swallow was seeing them posting then after that and saying they did 2,653 miles. And I would be like, that's bullshit. I was so mad.
Or they would be extremely vague and be like, finished the PCT, got to the northern terminus. And I'm like, but you didn't hike the entirety
hundreds of miles, or anything like that. And so it was a very big pill to swallow, probably the hardest that I had to mentally process for myself and decide I need to let go of and learning for the future, whatever thru hike we do again, that we're just going to have to let people do their thing and they're just going to do it.
It doesn't change the fact that we think it's complete bullshit. But everyone needs to go out there and hike their own pilgrimage or hike their own hike, however you see it, how they need to. And if that means just getting out there and skipping things that make them feel unsafe or things that they don't want to sweat through just because it's a hard climb, then so be it. And it is okay for them to do what they want as long as it's not hurting or harming anyone or the environment.
But it's a whole world that I didn't even realize was there until we got into it. You know, and it is what it is. We found out even that people were getting hitched to, so the midpoint, you can actually, it's 8 miles from a town. So people were getting hitched like from, what was it, 50 or 60 miles away. They were getting hitched to the town Chester, and they were hiking into the midpoint to sign it, get a picture, and then leave.
Instead of hiking all the way through
the burn section. There was a whole burn area, Belden
town, up the terrible climb.
It was the worst climb.
Out of Belden town.
With Mama Hawk.
Being attacked by a hawk. They just skipped it because they didn't want to do it.
And a lot of times people would pull the safety card, which I understand. However, you know, there comes a point, I feel like, in life where you can decide, do you want to face your dragons or do you want them to keep sleeping? And I feel like in a thru hike, you have the best opportunity to face your fears, face your dragons. And those are the times, those climbs, those areas when you're scared shitless and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. If you avoid those areas, then you're not going to be able to learn from it and take it with you in your life after. I feel like that's when you slay your dragons, is on this trail. So I guess moving on from this.
Yeah, those are our opinions. And clearly we feel very strongly about this.
And whoever listens to this, and if it's your first time through hiking, I hope you hear this and you get to hike your hike, but also know in those moments when you're scared for your safety, you are the only one who can make your own call.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had friends that did skip sections of trail, and they came to us and they were like, we're like, you guys are the real thru hikers, and we're not. And we want to come back and we've got to finish those sections, or I need to do this. And I just, like, I commended them for that because I feel like there's integrity behind that in life. And just think about that when you're doing this hike, that it's really about your own integrity. Don't cheat yourself out of your own experience.
And choose your company wisely. Thru hiking is kind of like high school. There are cliques all over the place. You'll have the base weight, lightweight, ultra hiker clique. You'll have the cool kid clique. Choose who you hang out with, and if they do something that doesn't make you feel comfortable or good about yourself, you don't have to do it with them.
Nope.
You can do whatever you want. And also, to that, if you feel unsafe doing something and you want to wait it out, or I know we just talked about skipping, if you need to do an alternate or go around something, do it. Because hiking with a group gives you a false sense of security sometimes. There's safety in numbers, but a herd mentality can lead to bad decisions sometimes. So just keep that in mind. Listen to your gut. And if your gut check is screaming at you, listen to it. We were fortunate in that we had each other on the trail. So we didn't have to be reliant on a tramily because we had each other. But we loved the people that we hiked with and considered tramily. But we didn't have to have that for security. And to wrap it all up, the reason that we ended with the interpersonal dynamic is because the physical, the environmental, and even the social, at the end of the day, all these stressors, all these scary conditions, all these people, these arguments, these good times, you're going to sit with it with yourself at the end of the day and process it out. And even when you're on the trail hiking or listening to music, your mind is going to wander and you're going to think about stuff because, I mean, you're out there for 6 months. At some point, you have to think and process shit out. So make the decisions that make you most comfortable and that make you feel good about yourself. Do what you need to. And if you need to scream or cry or process stuff with other people, do whatever you have to get it out. But get that shit out.
Don't hold it in because you will implode. It's literally a scientific fact that your brain, your body cannot handle. Once it starts working through that, if you try to shut it down while you're hiking, it won't work. It literally will implode on you, and you'll have to get it out at some point.
Because mental health is also directly associated with your physical health. And studies have shown that stress can cause physical ailments. Sadness, depression, same exact thing. So just process stuff out.
I think I would love to actually talk about what was your intrapersonal you, and then what was my intrapersonal me in the trail.
Well, it's hard coming back to the cotton world after doing stuff like that, because for 6 months, you build up this confidence and you know that you're a badass because you're going through each day, you're waking up the next day and you're doing it again, and you were doing things that most people choose not to do or can't do, whatever their reason may be. But you're out there doing it and you're making the next day happen. And so that continually builds up your confidence in yourself. And what also bolsters your confidence is whenever you are physically stronger as well. Because being in shape and being fit and feeling healthy does something for you mentally. And so I think coming back after feeling like a Greek god through that whole process of hiking the trail and finishing it, back to this real world where, it's hard to get a job that pays well, coming off the rip with no vehicle and having to reestablish ourselves. It's very humbling and it sucks. And you have people who kind of look down on you because you're not making 6 digits whenever you just know you are capable of such grandiose things. And it's humbling, it sucks, and you either suck it up or you let it get to you. And so I've just had to really suck it up since coming back. And so I think that's a huge contrast between the two worlds, because the trail really showed me that I'm capable of cool things.
I mean, just my observation of what I've seen in you too is I feel like you have a confidence about you in the way you communicate now with other people. Like mentally, emotionally, I feel like you've created a space of boundaries and like telling people like, hey, I'm not okay with that. I mean, you've said that to me and I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with that. And, and I feel like we really practice that on trail a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing the trail taught me for sure, and will probably teach all of you, and I know it taught you, is that you know what your limits are, and you know what you're willing and not willing to accept. So coming back, I'm kind of like the no guy, all like goofy person still, but I'm not going to accept people's bullshit. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they do. We're all people when it comes down to it. And if you throw every single human out there on that trail, everyone's on the same playing field. Yeah,
and then we come back into this world, and it matters. People care. It's your status. Like, it's who you are. I would agree with that, babe, that it's really hard to come back into this world and not even realize how contrasting it was. Because before the trail, I don't even know if I realized how strong this world is with, like, you have to look a certain way and sound a certain way and make a certain amount of money to be accepted or to be cool to people. And I didn't realize how strong that was until we got back. Like, people don't care. It was weird. It was like people didn't care about the fact. I mean, they might have thought it was impressive, but no one really wanted to hear the ins and outs, the pain, the hurt, or the badassery that we did. Yeah. And what they cared more about is, so what are you going to do? What's the job you're going to do? Yeah. So how much are you going to make? Or, it's just such a different dynamic of this world that we are now in versus the other world of learning how to belong to nature.
And to that also, I think being out there for so long, other people have said it, so I mean, it must be true, but I truly felt the change within me is that my level of active listening and sitting in silence more it's a trait that I didn't really pride myself in before we started, but I grew in that area. And since coming back, I've noticed just how short people's attention span can be in conversations sometimes. So I think it just helped quiet me and calm me down a little bit. As far as interpersonal just changes that you felt within yourself, what did the trail do for you?
I think that it created more self-awareness for me and just being very aware of the whole unifying of the body, the mind, the emotions, the physical aspect, because they all work together out there. And if one part is hurting, all will suffer. And when one part is doing great, all the other parts, if one part is suffering, you can see where it's at. Like if I'm physically doing great in that day, but emotionally I'm not, like my emotions will, like it's just very apparent that it's there.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere to suffocate what's happening to you. You can't numb it with your phone. You can't numb it with food. You can't numb it with alcohol. You can't numb it with distractions. You can't numb it with going out and doing a girls' night. Like, yeah, there's no way to numb anything inside of you once you're out there. You are out there and you are processing everything of who you are. So I think it really helped me to begin to navigate how do I process emotion in my mind and put them into a practical term. And then now that I'm back, I can't even hold those emotions in anymore. Like we hold emotions in our body all the time. But when you do something like that, it all comes out. You can't hold it in anymore. The body won't let you. And so it began to teach me how to have self-awareness in that space. Yeah. And I think also it just opened my eyes to nature a lot more and what nature goes through and how we treat nature. I really awakened something in me of an empathy to nature. How I haven't been protecting it as much as I could. You
felt bad when we cut our Christmas tree down.
Yeah. I felt horrible. I was like, this is a living organism that would have given us shade in the desert. Like, and I even cried thinking about it because you're so in tune with nature and the environment and it gives life to you at all turns. And when the fires began to happen, and this is something that drives me a little crazy now that I've gotten back, is when I'll tell people about the fires and they have not experienced nature like we have or haven't done a long through hike, they'll go, oh, but you need those fires.
It's a natural process.
It's a natural process of burning. And I'm like, but you don't understand. These are ungodly amounts that should not be this bad. All the marmots are dying. All nature is dying inside of that. Sure, it'll get rebirthed, but it's going to take 30 years for it to get rebirthed, and the animals don't come back.
I love that you said marmots.
Because the marmots burn inside their little holes because they think that they're going, like, if they go and burrow, they'll be okay. And anyway, I got very upset when I started to see these fires ravaging the forest because all of these animals that call this place home, it's their home, and it's no longer there for them. And we just aren't protecting that. I have a very strong emotion towards the environment now that I didn't have.
Yeah. The trail is a pilgrimage.
It is.
It really is. And I know you've seen movies or played video games where, like, the hero is going against their shadow self or a doppelganger. Well, the trail is kind of like that. And by the time you finish, you've defeated that alter ego of yourself. And you've come out like a more refined version of who you are. And with that, I just want to read the conclusion paragraph to the article that we wrote. I think it really summarizes things well. Whether you have positive or negative experiences with others on or off trail, the environment, your physical aches and pains, or struggle with your own thoughts at night, you'll have to wrestle with these things. Emotionally, bad experiences can and will drive you mad if allowed. If you let them, it will affect your trail experience and possibly send you back home. I suggest to you, the reader, to be the potter on trail, not the clay. Treat each experience on trail like clay, both good and bad. Take it, absorb the exchange, and mold it to what you want it to be. There will be negativity out there, but you'll need to mold it in such a way that you see beauty or humor in it and not allow it to ruin your hike. The good interactions with others will be what you remember, the laughs and campfire nights, the kindness of strangers, the tears you share with your fellow hikers, and all the coffee sunrise mornings from a sleeping bag with your family. Soak up the good, mold the bad, weather the storms, and use each moment to make your hike memorable.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to our episode of
Yeti
Walks into Base Camp. We're your hosts,
Yeti Legs
and Base Camp.
And as we say in the hiking
hiking community,
happy trails.